lovely. Thanks for watching this video on our bedroom makeover. So about 2 weeks ago, I decided to do a makeover on our master bedroom. Most of us are staying home right now. So after spending about a month in the house, I was feeling like I needed to just do a little project or make a change. And our master bedroom felt like a doable space to tackle because it's not very big. And I was intending to do this project by myself. So I gave myself 2 rules for this project. The first was that I would do it in a week, otherwise I would easily find reasons to push it out. And then the second was that I would use only what we had in the house. So we moved into our house like maybe 3.5 months ago now. So we've got some things that we hadn't yet placed from our old house, and also some things that I had just bought knowing that we would be moving into this house. So I knew I had a few items that I could pull from, but beyond that, I was also just willing to kind of like switch things between rooms and see what I could do with what I had to make a room better than it was at the start of the week. So with that, I kind of got started, and I know that maybe I have more things at my disposal than some people and probably a lot less than others, but what I'm hoping with this project is that I can just inspire you to kind of walk around your house and look at the items you have with new eyes and make some switches in your own space to just feel more inspired. It feels important that we make our homes someplace that we enjoy right now because we're spending so much time in them. So that is kind of my hope with this video. So let's get started. I will show you the room as it was at the beginning of the week. So the first thing I did was look at the things that I liked and the things that I disliked. For me, the things that I liked were literally the only things I brought into the room, which was our bed and our drapes. And I really love that mirror that we have, but I would be happy to use that elsewhere in the house too because it pretty much makes every wall that it's on look pretty, so didn't have to stay. And then the things that I didn't like were the light. It was kind of a dated fixture and I knew that I had options for that. And then I also didn't like the wallpaper. It was peeling at pretty much every seam, and in the summer I even got impatient and like ripped off a strip randomly. So there was even one whole width that was a completely different wallpaper. So that needed to be fixed. And then I just wanted to kind of clean up the space, like the woodwork. The window trim was in pretty rough shape and the baseboards were a little scratched up from when we had taken up the floors earlier this year. And then I just kind of did a bit of an inventory around the house, and doing that made it so that I could come up with a bit of a realistic design for what I would be doing in the room. So just knowing what I had to work with made it so that I knew what I was able to consider changing. And then I kind of just got right into it and started taking things out of the room that weren't going to stay. Okay, so the first major thing to do was remove this wallpaper. Every room that we've worked on in our house has started with wallpaper removal. Look at this, like this wallpaper came off so well. So I was so thankful. This just set us on like the right foot for the rest of the week. So with an old house, we have plaster walls. And once we remove the wallpaper, that's when you get to see the sort of condition that the plaster is in. But we were really lucky, again with this room, that there were not too many big cracks. The major things were where 2 walls met in the corner, there was always a bit of repair to do, and where the ceiling met the wall, there was some repair to do there as well. But honestly, nothing too major. The one thing that I did need to fix that was a little new for me was the ceiling. So in one part of the room, the plaster had seemed to detach from the lath, and you could just feel that the plaster was sagging a little bit. So I needed to basically adhere it back up so that it would be held in place. So to do this, I used plaster washers and wood screws. These are key things to have if you're doing any plaster repair. The next thing that I worked on were the trim around the windows. There were just a lot of holes in this trim because over the years people had just screwed the drapery rods directly into the trim, I think, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it seems like that was done. So I basically took out all the old hardware and smoothed it out and put in some wood filler. It worked really well, and when the wood filler dries, you're able to sand it, have a nice smooth surface, and then I was able to repaint the trim. So that was actually the next thing I did, which was repainting the trim. So I had a couple of cans of the paint that I've been using throughout the house. This is a semi-gloss by Sherwin-Williams, and the color that I like to use is Roman Column. So I just went about doing all the trim, and I think that this was day 3 at this point. So the next day, was day 4, and on day 4 I decided to venture down to our scary little basement and take a look at what things I had there. So the one thing that I did have was this bed frame. So earlier this year when I was thinking about our bedroom and what sort of design I wanted to do there, I had come across a bed that I really loved online. It was a Jenny Lynn style bed and it was painted black. So I set my sights on finding an antique spool bed, and sure enough, I found this one the very next day at a thrift shop for $20. So I went ahead and got it, obviously, and I decided that I would paint it black. Typically, I wouldn't actually want to paint an antique piece of furniture, but because I had set out with the intention of painting it in the first place, I just went for it. I did it, and I'm really happy with the result. All painted, and I really love how it looks. If you have any paint lying around, painting an item that you already have is kind of a great way to give it a second life or change up your space a little bit, especially when attempting a challenge like this where you want to make your space feel fresh and new, but not go out and buy anything new. So finally, after doing all the wall prep and painting the trim, I got started on painting the walls. So this was kind of what sparked the whole thing. I thought that I was out of wall paint, and I happened to find a quarter of a pail of white paint in the color that I've been doing all of our walls. So I kind of bought myself one more project by finding that can of paint, and that's when I decided I would do our bedroom. However, I did have some other kind of random things lying around that I could consider for the walls. So again, I went back down to our basement and I looked at the extra paint I had. So I had kind of like the ends of some cans or half of cans for like the pink that I used in our living room or the dark green from my kitchen. So those colors, I considered them all for accent walls. And then the two other things that I considered were some wallpapers. I had purchased this green and blue wallpaper for doing the closet in our bedroom. And then I also had this really pretty wallpaper, and I bought a double roll of it so that I could eventually wallpaper a second bathroom that we're planning to add. But again, that's a project that's not happening for a couple of years, so I would be happy to use it in our bedroom if I felt it was the right fit. Okay, on day 6, I was able to bring the drapes back in, and I had Dan help me hang them in the morning. They were a little too long for this space because I had them made for an older apartment of ours. So I'll just kind of explain what I did as a temporary solution. So I brought the drapes in this morning, and these were made when my sister and I lived in an old apartment with like 12-foot high ceilings. So they're too tall for this room. So I'm doing a super, super, super hack. Like, I don't think I advise anyone else to do this, but it's what I have, so it's what I'm doing. And I've done 2 drapes, and I think it looks better, so I'm just going to roll with it. Basically, I am choosing the hem length, ironing it, and then using double-sided tape on, like, the top edge of the hem. I have actually since been told, sharing this on my Instagram, that there is such thing as an iron-on hem. That sounds amazing. I hate sewing, so I would totally do that. But I don't have an iron-on hem right now. So yeah, I'm just gonna double-sided tape, and I will take these to get hemmed when it's safe to go back out in the world because they are really beautiful, nice quality drapes. So I would like to do them properly, but for now, it's a hack. All right, so back to the bed. I finally started to bring back in the bed frame, and I had to figure out how to make the headboard and footboard that I had painted work with our bed frame, because the headboard and footboard were for a double bed, but the bed frame was for a queen size bed. So really, I just needed to like attach the two of them together, but it didn't need to be structural in any way because the bed will be entirely supported on the metal frame that fits it. So this is what I came up with, and it actually worked really well. So I think I've previously explained the bed frame that we have is a double, but our bed is a queen. It's the only bed frame we have, and I like it, so I'm trying to use it. But the only thing is that it's a bit more narrow than the frame, the metal frame that we have for the queen bed to sit in. So I'm just trying to use, I found some random MDF. I've got these 2 little blocks, so I'm going to try and make like a connector piece between the metal bed frame, and then I'll screw this piece of MDF to the metal bed frame, and then I'll screw the other end of it to this wooden frame. Next, here's what I finally decided to put on our walls. So I had these large flower decals that I had purchased from Urban Walls. So I had bought them a few months prior because I was planning to put them up our stairwell. I was going to buy a bunch of them, but had already bought 2 when I changed my mind on what I was going to do in the stairwell. And so I had these 2 that I had nowhere to use. And this room kind of felt like the perfect spot. I really loved these flowers. Like, they were on my mind for months. And then when I changed my mind not to use them in the stairs, I was sad, but I knew it was the right decision because I like what I chose better. So anyway, I had them for this room and I think they're just perfect. I really like them. So finally, it was time to kind of start thinking about the furniture items in the room. I like to keep bedrooms really simple, like a bed, side tables, that's it. So side tables were the next thing. Currently, they were kind of mixed matched, the ones that we had there. So I brought up all the options I had, which were 2 things. I had these white nesting tables that were in our living room. And then I also had these 2 little seafoam green, kind of interestingly shaped side tables, also from our living room. The reality is that we don't need 4 side tables in our living room, so I was down to part with one of the sets. If I went for the white ones, I would put them together on just one side of the bed, and then if I went for the blue ones, obviously there would be one on each side of the bed. The blue little side tables won out, and I love having them up there. I just think they're so cute. I decided to bring a carpet into the space. This was previously in our living room, but the week prior I had decided to put our carpet from our dining room into our living room and go with nothing in our dining room and use this one in our bedroom. Did you follow that? That was a lot. But this was previously in our living room and it was just getting walked on a lot. So it was getting a lot dirtier than I wanted it to get. So being up in the bedroom, it's a lot more of a low traffic area, which I like. So with this carpet, I tried it 2 different ways, and in the end, I decided to do it more widthwise in the room. Final thing was changing the light, and that was something that probably I would have preferred to do earlier on in the process, but it was the one thing that I needed Dan's help for, and he was leaving for work so early in the day and then getting home when it was already dark, and you kind of need daylight when you're switching out a light because you have to turn off the power and it's all dark. So for the light, I had 2 options. Both of these I had purchased earlier this year at an online auction. They were so ridiculously affordable that I was kind of silly if I didn't buy them, basically. And knowing that we were moving into a decent sized house and that it had only ugly dated light fixtures, I went ahead and bought about 4 light fixtures, knowing that I would find rooms for them in the house. So I've used 2 of them and I had these 2 to decide between. Ultimately, I don't really feel that either of them would be the perfect choice for this room, but I landed on the black one. And I like how it looks. It gives it a bit more of a modern feel in the room, which I think is important. I really didn't want it to be too traditional feel. To make the bed, I just put the duvet cover back on, and then I also went down to our living room and I borrowed some of the pillows and blankets that I had down there because I just don't need them all down there on the couch. So I just wanted to make the bed feel a little bit more cozy, and I'm glad that I did. So that is it. Here's our completed room. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And I hope that this has just inspired you to make a small change in your space if you're feeling like you want it right now.